Have you ever done everything right? Eating less, moving more, cutting calories, and still not losing weight? Maybe the scale barely moves. Maybe you're exhausted all the time, bloated after meals, carrying weight you just can't seem to shake. If that sounds familiar, here's what I want you to understand. It's probably not your fault. And it's almost certainly not a willpower problem. What's really going on is that there is one hormone, one master switch inside your body that is silently blocking your ability to burn fat. And until that hormone drops, it doesn't matter how clean you eat or how hard you work out. Your body simply cannot access its stored fat for fuel. That hormone is insulin. Now, insulin isn't the enemy. It's actually one of the most important hormones in the human body. But when it's chronically elevated, when it never gets a chance to come back down, it acts like a lock on your fat cells, a padlock. And no matter what you do on the outside, the fat stays trapped on the inside. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Insulin is the gatekeeper of fat burning. High insulin means fat storage. Low insulin means fat release. It's that binary. It's that fundamental. And yet almost nobody talks about why insulin stays elevated or exactly what to do to fix it. That's what today is about. We're going to go deep, not complicated, but precise, into the physiology of insulin, fat burning, and metabolic health. By the end, you're going to walk away with a clear understanding of your own body and a set of specific actionable tools to lower insulin naturally and get your metabolism working for you instead of against you. Let's get into it. Here are the 6 science-backed insights we're going to cover today. 1. What insulin actually does inside your body and why high insulin directly blocks fat burning at the cellular level. 2. The hidden foods and habits that keep insulin chronically elevated, even when you think you're eating healthy. 3. Why your liver is the secret command center of your metabolism and what happens when it breaks down. 4. The power of the fasting window. How timing your meals changes your hormone landscape entirely. 5. How chronic stress and poor sleep spike insulin through cortisol, and what to do about it. 6. A practical, layered protocol for lowering insulin naturally, starting today. Let's go to point 1. What insulin actually does, the lock on your fat cells. 3 words. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your fat cells are a warehouse. Inside that warehouse is stored energy, body fat, that your body could use for fuel. Now, the door to that warehouse has a lock on it. The key that opens that lock is called hormone-sensitive lipase. It's the enzyme that breaks down stored fat and releases it into the bloodstream so your cells can burn it. But here's the problem. Insulin blocks that key. When insulin is elevated, hormone-sensitive lipase is suppressed. The warehouse door stays shut. Your body cannot access its stored fat. Instead, it burns glucose, blood sugar, for energy. And when the glucose runs out, instead of switching over to fat, your body sends you a signal you know all too well. Intense hunger, cravings, fatigue. This is not a character flaw. This is basic physiology. Here's what the research shows. A landmark paper published in the American Journal of Physiology confirmed that insulin inhibits the release of free fatty acids from fat tissue more powerfully than it affects any other metabolite, including glucose itself. American Physiological Society. Think about what that means. The very hormone that spikes every time you eat is the same hormone that blocks your body's ability to access stored fat. Every single meal that raises insulin resets that clock. So the goal isn't to avoid insulin altogether. That would be dangerous. The goal is to allow insulin to come back down between meals. When insulin is low, hormone-sensitive lipase is active. The warehouse door opens. Fat flows out of cells and into your mitochondria, your cellular engines, where it gets burned as fuel. That's fat burning. That's the metabolic state you're trying to reach. And it only happens when insulin drops. If this is adding clarity for you, consider subscribing. I post content like this every day, and every video is designed to give you tools your doctor may have never explained. The hidden insulin triggers. What's keeping you stuck? 340 words. Now here's where it gets interesting, and honestly, where most people are being misled. The obvious insulin trigger is sugar. Everyone knows that. Eat a candy bar, spike your insulin. But what most people don't realize is that there are insulin triggers hiding in foods they consider healthy. And those hidden triggers are keeping millions of people metabolically stuck every single day. Let me walk you through the main ones. Refined carbohydrates are the most powerful. Bread, pasta, rice, cereals, crackers, even whole grain versions spike insulin significantly because they are broken down rapidly into glucose. Your pancreas sees that wave of glucose coming and fires a surge of insulin in response. The more refined the carb, the faster and higher the spike. Fruit juice and smoothies are another big one. Whole fruit at least contains fiber to slow glucose absorption. But when you juice it or blend it into a smoothie without adequate fat and protein, you've essentially created liquid sugar. Insulin spikes fast and hard. Frequent snacking may be the most overlooked problem of all. Every time you eat, even a small, healthy snack, you trigger an insulin response. If you're eating every 2 to 3 hours, your insulin never has a chance to come back down to baseline. You are in a state of chronic insulin elevation all day long. And recent research has highlighted that hyperinsulinemia, chronically high insulin, may itself be a driver of insulin resistance, not just a consequence of it. PubMed. This is a crucial insight. It means the more frequently you spike insulin, the more resistant your cells become to it. And the higher insulin has to climb just to do its job. It becomes a vicious cycle. Low-fat diet foods are another trap. When food manufacturers remove fat from products, they replace it with sugar and refined starch to maintain palatability. These products are insulin bombs disguised as health food. The solution? Start reading labels, not for fat content, but for total carbohydrates and sugar. And start thinking less about calories and more about your insulin response curve. The liver, the hidden command center of your metabolism. GI, 330 words. Here's what most people, and frankly many doctors, miss entirely. Your fat metabolism isn't just about your fat cells, it's about your liver. The liver is the central processing hub of your entire metabolic system. It regulates blood glucose, manages fat burning and fat storage, produces ketones during fasting, and is the first organ to become insulin resistant when your diet goes wrong. Here's what's really going on inside your body when the liver breaks down. Insulin resistance primarily develops in 3 tissues: the liver, skeletal muscle, and adipose tissue. PubMed. When the liver becomes insulin resistant, which happens gradually, over months and years of chronic carbohydrate overconsumption, it loses its ability to respond correctly to insulin's signals. It keeps pumping out glucose even when blood sugar is already high. This forces the pancreas to produce even more insulin, driving the whole system further into dysfunction. And here's the dangerous part. Most people with early-stage liver insulin resistance have no obvious symptoms. They might be slightly tired, slightly heavier around the middle, slightly sluggish after meals, nothing dramatic. But internally, their metabolism is already shifting in the wrong direction. A fatty liver, now called metabolic dysfunction-associated steatotic liver disease, or MASLD, is almost always preceded by years of high insulin and poor metabolic signaling. Progression of insulin resistance can lead to metabolic syndrome, fatty liver disease, and type 2 diabetes. PubMed. So how do you protect and restore the liver? First, dramatically reduce refined carbohydrate and sugar intake. This directly reduces the glucose load the liver must process. Second, include choline-rich foods, eggs, liver, salmon, as choline is critical for fat export from liver cells. Third, consider berberine, a plant compound with strong evidence for improving insulin sensitivity in both the liver and muscle tissue. Fourth, Increase physical movement after meals. Even a 10-minute walk after eating can reduce post-meal blood sugar and insulin by a measurable amount. Restore the liver, and you restore the engine of your entire metabolism. If this is connecting the dots for you, subscribe and share this video. This is the kind of foundational content that changes how people understand their own bodies. The fasting window, your most powerful insulin-lowering tool, 350 words. Now let's talk about the single most powerful tool you have available to lower insulin, and it costs you nothing, the fasting window. Here's the simple truth. Insulin drops when you don't eat. Not because of some trick or supplement, but because of basic physiology. When there is no food coming in, there's no glucose spike, and therefore no insulin surge. Over the course of a fasting period, insulin gradually declines to its baseline level, and once it stays low long enough, your body initiates lipolysis, the breakdown of stored fat, and begins using it for fuel. This is the metabolic switch, glucose metabolism to fat metabolism, and research confirms it works powerfully. In the first hours after a meal, energy comes mainly from glucose. As the time since the last meal increases, glycogen stores are gradually depleted, and when significantly depleted, the body activates alternative energy pathways, triggering lipolysis, which breaks down triglycerides from fat tissue into free fatty acids that enter the bloodstream as fuel. PubMed Central. A landmark umbrella review published in eClinical Medicine in 2024, analyzing dozens of randomized controlled trials, found that intermittent fasting produced significant reductions in fat mass, fasting insulin, waist circumference, LDL cholesterol, and triglycerides, with high certainty of evidence. The Lancet. And a 2024 clinical trial showed that combining a 12-hour fasting window with calorie awareness produced significantly greater reductions in body fat mass, nearly double, compared to calorie restriction alone. Nature. What does this look like practically? Start with a 12-hour fast. Simply stop eating at 7 p.m. and don't eat again until 7 a.m. That's a reasonable, sustainable entry point. Progress toward a 16.8 window, eating within an 8-hour window, fasting for 16. This is where the metabolic benefits become more consistent and pronounced. Break your fast with protein and fat first, not carbohydrates. This preserves the low insulin environment for longer and prevents a rapid spike after your eating window opens. Stay hydrated during the fast. Water, black coffee, and plain tea are all fine. They don't raise insulin. The fasting window isn't about starvation. It's about giving your body the hormonal space it needs to do what it was designed to do. Cortisol, stress, and sleep. The insulin disruptors nobody talks about. 130 words. Here's something I want you to sit with for a moment. You can eat perfectly, clean whole foods, no sugar, controlled carbs, and still have chronically elevated insulin if you are under chronic stress and sleeping poorly. That might sound surprising, but it makes complete physiological sense. Here's why. When you're stressed, your adrenal glands release cortisol, the primary stress hormone. Cortisol's job, evolutionarily, is to prepare you for a threat. Part of that preparation involves raising blood sugar, flooding your muscles with glucose so you can fight or run. And when blood sugar rises, what follows? Insulin. Chronic stress equals chronically elevated cortisol. Chronically elevated cortisol equals repeated blood sugar spikes throughout the day, even if you haven't eaten a single carbohydrate. A tightly regulated cascade of insulin-dependent signaling controls multiple metabolic processes, and disruption of these pathways, from both dietary and non-dietary inputs, is marked by intrinsic and extrinsic cell signaling dysfunction. Springer sleep disruption makes this significantly worse. Even a single night of poor sleep measurably reduces insulin sensitivity the following day. Research has consistently shown that sleep deprivation activates cortisol pathways, raises inflammatory markers, and impairs glucose regulation, all of which push insulin upward. So what do you do? For sleep, prioritize a consistent sleep schedule. Same bedtime, same wake time. Keep your room cool and dark. Avoid screens for at least 45 minutes before bed. Magnesium glycinate at night, 300 to 400 milliliters, supports both sleep quality and insulin sensitivity. For stress, implement a deliberate recovery practice. 10 to 15 minutes of breath work or slow walking after meals activates the parasympathetic nervous system and blunts cortisol's glucose-raising effects. For both, consider ashwagandha, an adaptogenic herb with multiple studies showing it lowers fasting cortisol and improves insulin sensitivity over time. Managing stress and sleep isn't soft medicine. It is metabolic medicine, and your insulin levels are the proof. If this is clicking for you, please like this video and subscribe. It signals that this type of content is valuable, and it helps me reach more people who need it. The Insulin Reset Protocol, your complete action plan. Everything we've talked about today comes together here. This is your Insulin Reset Protocol, the specific layered framework for lowering insulin naturally, restoring fat-burning physiology, and reclaiming your metabolic health. Think of this as the roadmap. Layer 1, eliminate the fast insulin spikes. Remove refined carbohydrates, sugar-sweetened beverages, fruit juices, and ultra-processed foods from your daily diet. These are the highest frequency insulin triggers. Replace them with whole foods, non-starchy vegetables, quality proteins, and healthy fats. Eggs, avocados, olive oil, salmon, nuts. These foods produce minimal insulin response and provide sustained energy. Layer 2, structure your eating window. Start with a minimum 12-hour fast. Ideally work towards 16 hours. Compress your eating into a defined window. Stop grazing. 2 to 3 intentional meals, no snacking between them. Every time you avoid a snack, you're giving insulin more time to drop. Layer 3, move after you eat. A 10 to 15-minute walk after your largest meal is one of the most evidence-backed interventions for reducing post-meal blood sugar and blunting the insulin response. Your muscles act as a glucose sponge. Put them to work. Layer 4, sleep and recover deliberately. 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep is not a luxury. It is a metabolic necessity. Pair this with stress management tools. Breath work, cold exposure, walking in natural light in the morning. All of these modulate cortisol and support lower baseline insulin. Layer 5, consider targeted support. Berberine, 500 ml twice daily with meals, has robust evidence for improving insulin sensitivity, comparable to some pharmaceutical interventions. Magnesium, alpha-lipoic acid, and chromium also support glucose metabolism and insulin signaling. Discuss these with your healthcare provider in the context of your full health picture. These layers work together. Fasting interventions lasting 12 weeks or longer demonstrated significantly greater improvements in insulin sensitivity than shorter interventions. PubMed Central, which tells us that consistency over time is where the real metabolic transformation happens. Start simple, start sustainable, and stay consistent. Let's bring this home. Your body is not broken. It is not lazy. It is not resistant to change. It is responding precisely and correctly to the hormonal signals it's receiving. When insulin is high, your body stores fat and burns glucose. When insulin drops, your body unlocks its fat stores and begins burning them for energy. The difference between being stuck and making real lasting progress often comes down to one thing: understanding this system and working with it, not against it. Here's what we covered today. Insulin is the master gatekeeper of fat burning. High insulin locks your fat cells shut. The foods and habits that keep insulin elevated, refined carbs, frequent snacking, chronic stress, poor sleep, are the root causes worth addressing. Your liver is the command center of your metabolism, and protecting it is protecting your long-term metabolic health. The fasting window is your most powerful and accessible tool, and the Insulin Reset Protocol, layered eating structure, movement, sleep, and targeted support gives your body the conditions it needs to heal and rebalance naturally. Here's my challenge to you. Pick just one change from today's video and implement it this week. Whether that's extending your overnight fast to 12 hours, cutting out the afternoon snack, taking a walk after dinner, or improving your sleep window, one change implemented consistently creates a ripple effect in your biology. Track how you feel. Notice your energy. Notice your hunger patterns. Your body will tell you the protocol is working. If this video added value to your understanding of your health, please like it and subscribe. It helps me continue creating this kind of evidence-based, practical content every single day for people who are serious about optimizing their health naturally, without medication, without confusion, and without giving up. See you in the next one.